This is my daily driver, a Honda Jazz SI. I'm going to be doing some small jobs on it now in the coming weeks, so I thought I'd just give a quick intro about the car and what I've done to it so far. So this is a 1.3 petrol manual non-hybrid SI, and the SI basically has different bumpers, front and rear, different side skirts, different wheels. I'm not sure about the lights, maybe the grille as well is different. Just a little bit sportier looking. You might have seen this in some of my previous videos, just in the background. The only modifications I've really done to it so far are just on the interior. The obligatory phone holder, and I just put in a Bluetooth receiver there so I could play through the auxiliary on the standard stereo. Not sure if I'll replace this stereo just yet, or at all for that matter. And the other thing that annoyed me when I got this car is I had one of those goo repair things for the tires in the back, so I just replaced that with a proper space saver wheel, which has already come in handy, as you'll see. I just got a puncture. One more modification I forgot to mention is the spoiler that I put on this. It's a copy of a genuine Honda spoiler, and it came pre-painted and the colour doesn't exactly match, so I haven't decided if I care about that or not, but it does look nice. As you can see, the wheels that came on this car are a 16-inch kind of diamond cut style, which they look okay, but it's obviously riding very high. But the wheels themselves are very narrow and they just sit into the arches a lot. Not mad on diamond cut wheels either. So I thought I might change that, and while I'm at it, it'll obviously need to be lowered if I go with a wider wheel. So I've decided to take the sensible option. Instead of buying all the parts and putting it all on and then maybe deciding I don't like the ride, I'm going to take it step by step. First step is I'm going to put on lowering springs. See what the ride is like out of those springs, if I can live with that on my daily driver, and then get the wheels after that if I'm happy with that, because the springs are fairly cheap, the wheels are expensive. So I'm going to put the springs on, and if I don't like them I can always go back to stock and then scrap the whole idea, and if I do like them I can go ahead and buy the expensive wheels. There are loads of different lowering spring brands and options on the market for the Jazz, which is great. They have some choice, but I wanted to go to a brand that had a good reputation and, you know, some owners that had actually put them on and had good results. So I went with H&R. Look pretty good quality anyway. So replacing the springs on the rear of this car is super simple. They're not a coil on shock, there's a separate spring and shock, which means it's just like a couple of bolts, take it out, bish bash bosh. The front is a bit more involved. Let me show you. So you can't actually access the top of the strut tower here to be able to unbolt the suspension, the coil on shock suspension on the front. And to get to it you actually have to take quite a bit off here. This whole plastic cowling here needs to come off, as well as actually the wiper blade, the wiper arms themselves, and the motor that connects all of the wipers together I think needs to be removed as well to get to the top of the shock towers. Once you get that off, that extra step, it's fairly straightforward from there. There's a couple of bolts underneath, a couple on the top. To get these wiper arms off, you just take these little rubber covers off, and then you can get to a 14mm bolt here. Easiest way to get these off is just to lever it from side to side just to break it free, and then it should be fairly loose. To get this cowl off, there are these kind of little trim clips, plastic trim clips. So you can just use one of those kind of trim tools to pry it off. Once you've freed off some of these trim clips, you literally, there's clips in behind here, you just literally need to tug upwards. So there are the washer tubes here routed all the way along this cowl, but there is a break point here, so you can disconnect it and take it away. And just like any other video I've seen of people getting into this area, there's lots of leaves and debris and cobwebs and everything, so I'll clean that up first. So as you can see on this side, you've got loads of access to that strut tower, but on the other side, all of that wiper mechanism is in the way. So there is just a few 10mm bolts, and then the whole thing should come out. This also has an electrical connection here that you'll need to remove. There is a fourth 10mm which is up in there. So I think I can either take this piece of cowling off here to get to it, or I might be able to snake a bendy socket in there. So you can see that fourth one here at the back. So the next step is to undo the top of the strut. Again, there's a little rubber boot on the top to protect the Allen. Then you'll need a 17mm wrench and a 6mm Allen to prevent it from spinning as you twist the nut off. So underneath this nut there is actually a sprung washer there as well. And I'm going to do the same with the other side. Okay, now moving down to the strut itself. There are two 19mm bolts holding it on. There's also the brake cable, which is a 12mm, and one more thing, which is the sway bar end link, which is a 14. Pretty straightforward. Well, as is the way with working on cars, even on simple jobs, things always have a tendency to go sideways. This anti-roll bar, basically there's a hex that you stop it spinning by holding that, and then you use your 14 to run that off. But they are very rusty, and basically what ended up happening was this got rounded out. It was obviously so badly rusted, and all the threads were rusty even though I scraped them down, lubricated it all, didn't seem to make a difference. So both of them are messed up now. So I think I might be able to get an angle grinder in there and cut that bolt off, maybe. This one I definitely won't be able to, just with the way that bracket is designed. So I think what I'm going to have to do there is drill that out. So that is not going to be fun. Okay, I had to cut that bolt off on the bottom. But anyway, anti-roll bar is off. So I'm going to get a new anti-roll bar. It's disconnected on the bottom. It's still attached here and stuck on the top. But I'm just going to get a new anti-roll bar with new bolts rather than trying to put a bad one back in. So now I have disconnected the brake line, and this is just got a little clip holding in the speed sensor. So everything should be free to pull out at this point. Oh, that is very dirty. So it is now out, and I can start replacing the spring. So it's the usual process for taking the springs off. On with the spring compressors, take off the top hat, and then it is a 19mm to take that off. So I'm just going to clean this up a little bit, take off this rubber kind of damper on the bottom of the spring, and then reassemble it all. I've transferred over that rubber damper there at the bottom, but you can see the difference in the heights there with the new springs that are going in. This doesn't necessarily correlate to the ride height, because it obviously could be stiffer springs as well as being shorter. And back in she goes. I'll have to sort out the anti-roll bar tomorrow. The parts are coming overnight. If you're obsessed with wheels like me and want to get some sweet t-shirts or hoodies, check out jazztheshop.com, where we've got hundreds of wheel designs. To get a chunky discount, use this coupon code JAZZDA-YouTube. You won't regret it. So yesterday was a bit of a disaster. I haven't picked up the anti-roll bar end links yet this morning. The place isn't open yet. But I'm going to get started on the rear and then head out later on. So this side should be a lot more straightforward. Essentially, your damper is connected to the bottom here with a single bolt. And then you can push down this whole arm and get out your spring and replace it. One thing I'm going to mention while I'm here, the SI models that have these side skirts, the way these factory ones are molded in, they have this kind of rubber end cap. And I noticed when I had the wheel off previously that loads and loads of dirt gathers in here. So I'm going to take that off, and there's just two clips holding it on. Clean that all out, and I might even give it a little bit of a lick of paint just to add an extra layer of protection, because I could see that being a rust trap in the future. Just a heads up for anybody who has this kit. So now that that bolt is out, I should be able to lower this arm down and get the spring out, hopefully. Might just undo this speed sensor here because it looks like that's going to take a bit of strain, just so it has a bit more flexibility. Okay, now you need to take these spring perches off the top and bottom. They're just rubber dampers kind of, and put them over top the new spring. Again, you can see it's quite a bit shorter. Okay, good to go back in. There's a little rubber kind of nipple on the bottom spring perch and some holes that are in the mount on the bottom, so you just need to make sure that it's lined up to fit into one of those holes so it doesn't spin. So there's a few holes in the bottom of this mount here, and it's actually the forwardmost one that is the only one it lines up with, so I guess that's where it needs to sit. And I'll put it back in. I'm just going to clean up the bolt first because it's a bit rusty. Okay, the rear is now done, and I've gone off to the Motor Factors to get the anti-roll bar end links and picked them up, and they're all in. That was a super simple job. So, getting there. The Beat is back in the garage, which means the Jazz is done. It definitely looks good, but will it drive okay? That's the next test. Nope, 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 nope. The verdict is in, and they are back in the box. I drove it for a few weeks on these lowered springs, and it was just not my cup of tea. You would expect the ride to be quite a lot firmer over speed bumps and things like that, but I didn't expect it to be firmer everywhere. Like even on smooth tarmac, it just was bouncy and didn't settle. Did not like it at all. Looked a little better, but not worth it. So back to the stock springs, and I'm going to give up on the idea of changing the wheels. Leave it as is. But you don't know for sure unless you try these things, so it wasn't that expensive. I'll put them back up for sale again and get most of the money back. Sometimes you got to experiment. Slán.